This imperative has a term. Hyperobjects are viscous. They stick to you, and the stickiness has a strange property. The more you try to shake it off, to achieve some kind of conceptual distance towards it, the more it sticks to you, like the story of Anansi and the tar baby. In your struggle to achieve conceptual distance, you find out more about them. What do you find out? You find out how they affect more corners of your life. Knowledge is unable to achieve escape velocity from Earth. The paint is unable to transcend the canvas it's stuck on. Hyperobjects eat knowledge. This is a truly astounding discovery, and it's strange in itself that we're not more astounded by it on a daily basis. The more we seem to try to transcend the world with our knowledge and technology and instrumentality, the more we realize in the very same process that we are riveted to the spot. The search for a transcendental beyond, whether Kantian or Schopenhauerian or Nietzschean or even Heideggerian, the Hegelian positing of an absolute, or the Whiteheadian positing of a dynamic creativity that flows through everything like wax in a lava lamp, every form of reductionism or transcendentalism or phenomenological positing of transcendent Dasein, all that, the last 200 years of it, become the roaring sounds of a jet engine without wheels or wings, the screeching of a tangly sculpture slowly dismantling itself in an art gallery. As goes philosophy, so goes science and technology. The Large Hadron Collider can break particles down by smashing them at close to light speed. Computers using terabytes of RAM can map the entire Earth's climate in real time. We can draw an IBM logo on the surface of some atoms. Massively distributed computing systems can process information at transhuman speeds. We could describe these procedures as, on the one hand, undermining, breaking things down into smaller things, and overmining, dissolving them upwards into holistic aggregates and patterns and systems. I'm using terms developed by Graham Harman. But hilariously, the more we undermine and overmine, the more actual, discrete, opaque, resilient, massive chunks of objects hove into view. That's not all, folks. The undermining and overmining processes, and we could also describe the last 200 years of philosophy in terms of this oscillation between breaking down and dissolving up, these very processes themselves are what give birth to our contact with the hyperobjects. They let us see these huge Titanic-like forms floating at the bottom of our conceptual ocean, these tips of gigantic icebergs sticking nonchalantly out of the surface of our probing and testing. Meanwhile, capitalism, with its utilitarian reductionism, undermining, and its Christian resonance machines, overmining, amplifying and broadcasting its message, I'm thinking here of William Connolly's work, promise us a pot of gold tomorrow, next year, after we retire, at the end of the rainbow, over there, in the stock market, in the ticker below the news, after the headlines in the financial report, over yonder in the bank, in the circulation of products, in the accumulation of value. Capital is elsewhere, the elsewhereing of value. Careless of the here and now, George Bush II tripped into Iraq and tried to flip the Armageddon switch. But I'm happy to say that the objects have saved us. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have exited modernity. Phew! And it's not the end of history. This is just the beginning, the moment of aperture when we wonder, has this started yet? How many chapters are there? Is there a lead character? Who's narrating this story? Think about how we wonder whether global warming has begun or not. That's how you can tell it has begun. Bad news, but good news insofar as it means that modernity is over. And by that I also mean post-modernity. I'm here today with good news, I think. Our position vis-à-vis these objects is like trying to get closer to the moon by running towards it, all the while forgetting that you're on the surface of the Earth. The viscosity is a direct product of increasing information. The more data we have about hyperobjects, the less we know about them, the more we realize we can never truly know them. This is a very curious phenomenon, one that confirms my suspicion that we have entered an ecological era. A few moments ago we were delighting on our ironic free play. Now it seems we're stuck to the mirror, like Neo in that scene in The Matrix. The sticking occurs as a function of our attempt to realize the dream of progress, to see ourselves in the mirror of the end of history. Our very attempt to achieve escape velocity from our physical and biological being has resulted in being stuck to the Earth. Rather than the total disintegration of the subject a la Frederick Jameson, or the vertiginous freedom of deconstruction, what we have is the creepy awareness that we are stuck to objects, forever. We can't unknow what we know. what we end up with is a situation in which it becomes impossible to maintain any kind of aesthetic distance. This distance is the main factor in producing the concept nature. So the curious phenomenon arises in which nature dissolves just as hyperobjects start to ooze uncannily around us. Objects in mirror are closer than they appear. Viscosity is what compels us, what puts us in that zone of the imperative. In this zone, choice is not the theatre of moral action. The viscosity of hyperobjects haunts us. It looms into our social, psychic, and ecological space, or rather we discover that it was already looming. Ontologically and temporally prior to our conceptual probing, hyperobjects are here already, like the ghosts in the sixth sense.